You never think the person you love like family would be the one to destroy everything you built. But that's exactly what happened. And if I told you it started with something dramatic, I'd be lying. It started with a torn Pokemon card and a broken nose. We were both 10. I was the new kid in school, small for my age and constantly targeted. Kyle was bigger, faster, louder. The kind of kid who knew how to throw a punch and make it look like self-defense. On that particular day, I was holding on to a rare Charizard I'd won in a trade, and Kyle wanted it. He didn't ask, he demanded. I told him no. He tackled me into the dirt. I swung. He swung back. Teachers separated us, called our parents, suspended us both for 3 days. It should have ended there. But instead, it started something. When I got home, face still throbbing, my mom was furious. But when the doorbell rang an hour later, Kyle was standing there with his dad, holding an ice pack and my bent card. He handed it to me with a grimace. "Sorry," he muttered. "You fight good for a little guy." That's all it took. The feud ended with pizza and video games in my living room that same night. From then on, we were inseparable. Kyle became my shield from bullies, and I became his anchor when things got messy at home. His parents fought constantly, and mine practically adopted him. My mom called him her second son. My dad joked that we were two peas in a pod, one loud and reckless, the other quiet but stubborn. High school only strengthened that bond. We got into the same trouble, chased the same girls, skipped the same classes. But where I stayed behind in the background, Kyle always stood in the spotlight. He had a way of commanding attention, of walking into a room and making it his. And honestly, I didn't mind. He needed it more than I did. I was happy to stay in the shadows as long as we were still a team. After graduation, we took a few community college courses, but school wasn't really our thing. What was? Fixing things. Phones, laptops, game consoles. We could fix them all. Kyle had a way with people, and I had a way with wires. He'd bring in the customers, and I'd bring their dead devices back to life. So we started a business, nothing official, just a table in my dad's garage. We put up flyers around town, ran a few Facebook ads, and soon we had a small but loyal customer base. We called ourselves Fix-It Brothers, because that's what everyone called us anyway. The money wasn't amazing at first, but it was ours. We were building something brick by brick, and it felt like the beginning of something huge. Looking back now, I wish I'd noticed the signs. Kyle always wanted more. More customers. More locations. More followers on our business Instagram. I was focused on quality, one repair at a time, one happy customer at a time. But Kyle wanted scale. But impressive. We need to expand, he'd say, pacing back and forth with that manic energy he always had. Open a second shop. Hire people. Launch an app. Bro, this is how we blow up. I was hesitant. We barely have enough to cover rent. He grinned. I've been talking to some people. Investors. They're interested. My stomach turned. Investors? That meant sharing control. It meant pressure. It meant moving faster than we were ready for. But Kyle could talk a starving man into giving up his last meal. And somehow, he talked me into it too. We got a small loan from a local tech incubator. Not much, just enough to rent a second location across town, hire a couple of college kids, and upgrade our branding. Kyle insisted we let him handle the paperwork. I've got a buddy who can get this set up cheap and fast, he said. I didn't argue. I was too busy training the new hires and managing both shops to double-check legal documents. That was my first real mistake. The months that followed were a blur. Business boomed. People loved the vibe, local kids fixing their neighbors' stuff, no corporate nonsense. We got featured in a local tech blog. A small-time YouTube reviewer made a video about us. The buzz was real. Kyle thrived in the attention. He gave interviews, took selfies with customers, and pitched ideas for franchising. I stayed behind the scenes, fixing cracked screens and soldering broken ports. I didn't mind, at least not at first. Then came the late-night calls I wasn't part of. The lunch meetings I wasn't invited to. The upgrades to Kyle's wardrobe. The flashy new car. He told me it was all from a bonus one of our investors gave him directly. Don't worry, he said. We're in this together. You'll see your share. But something in his voice had changed. It wasn't excited anymore. It was condescending. Like he was already above me. Like I was an employee. Then came the day everything shifted. We had a big order to fulfill, 10 tablets from a local school that needed repairs before the weekend. I was working late at our first location when a woman walked in, holding a folder. "Hi," she said politely. "Is Kyle here? I have the revised lease paperwork for FixPro Solutions." I blinked. "You mean Fix-It Brothers?" She frowned. "No, FixPro. That's the name on the documents. This location is under his name, effective last week." I froze. She showed me the papers. Kyle's name. His signature. His contact info. No, yours was mine. She must have seen the look on my face. "Oh, I thought you were just one of the techs." "Just one of the techs?" I laughed. It came out dry and hollow. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I tried to access our business bank account. Access denied. I tried logging into our shared email. Password changed. Website backend? Gone. Everything gone. Kyle had locked me out of the business I helped build from nothing. My hands shook as I called him. Voicemail. I texted, "We need to talk. Now." No response. I drove to our second location. The door was locked. A new sign was up. FixPro Solutions, grand reopening. Same font. Same logo. Slight name change. No mention of Fix-It Brothers. No mention of me. Just him. I stood there for a long time, staring through the glass at the shop I helped create. I felt sick, angry, betrayed. But above all, I felt stupid. How had I not seen this coming? How had I handed over everything, my trust, my loyalty, my future, to someone who saw me as nothing more than a stepping stone? He wasn't just my business partner. He was my best friend. And now, he was my enemy. They say betrayal cuts deepest when it comes from family. And Kyle wasn't just my best friend. He was family. At least he used to be. For the first few days after discovering the betrayal, I was numb. Not angry. Not sad. Just frozen. I wandered the house like a ghost, trying to make sense of everything. How could someone who grew up beside me, who shared birthdays and holidays and heartbreaks, turn around and rip the floor out from under me? I didn't know what hurt worse, the loss of the business or the loss of him. But numbness eventually faded, and rage took its place. I still had his mother's number. She adored me, used to call me her other son. So I reached out, trying to find Kyle. "He's been busy," she said hesitantly over the phone. "He mentioned some changes, but I thought you were in on them." "No," I said, my voice tight. "I wasn't." The pause. "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Let me talk to him. Maybe he just got carried away." But I knew better. This wasn't impulsive. It was planned. He changed passwords. Transferred the lease. Rebranded the business. That wasn't a heat-of-the-moment decision. It was a coup. 3 days later, Kyle called. His name lit up my screen like a taunt. I let it ring once, then answered. "Hey man," he said casually, like nothing had happened. "Been meaning to call." "You stole everything," I said. A long pause. "I didn't steal anything. I saved the business," he replied. "You were holding it back." My jaw clenched. "We built it together. You fixed stuff. I grew it. There's a difference." That line broke something in me. "You think that gives you the right to erase me?" He sighed like I was being unreasonable. "Look, I was going to bring you in once things stabilized. I had to move fast. Investors don't want to hear about 2 high school dropouts splitting ownership. They want a face. One face. And you picked yours." He didn't deny it. "I'm not the enemy, bro. I'm just doing what's best for the business." I stared at the wall, seeing nothing. "You're a coward." His tone hardened. "I gave you a chance to be part of something bigger. If you walk away now, that's on you." "I didn't walk away," I said coldly. "You pushed me." And then I hung up. That was the last time we spoke for months. I didn't sleep much after that. I stopped eating right. I shut myself off from the world. Everywhere I turned I saw us. The flyers we made. The late nights in the garage. The broken laptops. The inside jokes. The loyalty. The laughter. All poison now. My mom tried to get me to move on. My dad offered to help me press charges, but I had nothing concrete. The paperwork was in his name. The accounts were locked. The investors were on his side. Kyle was thriving. I watched from the sidelines as FixPro Solutions opened a third location. I saw his interviews on local news segments, praising his vision and hustle. I saw the posts on Instagram of smiling customers and shiny storefronts. Each one felt like a knife. I couldn't let it end like that. So I did the only thing I could do. I started again. This time alone. I pulled the last of my savings, barely enough to rent a tiny storefront on the edge of town. It was cramped, dusty, and smelled like old carpet and despair. But it was mine. I called it Reboot Repair. No flashy logos. No Instagram stunts. Just me, a toolkit, and a sign in the window that read, "Affordable repairs. Honest work." The first few weeks were brutal. Some days I didn't even make enough to cover the electric bill. I fixed things for free just to get people in the door. I passed out flyers. I answered calls myself. I slept in the back office more than once. But slowly, people came. They came because they remembered me. "Hey, didn't you used to be with Fix-It Brothers?" They'd ask. "Yeah," I'd say. "That was me." I just branched off. I didn't trash Kyle publicly. I didn't air the betrayal. I let my work speak. And then something unexpected happened. One of our old customers, Mrs. Leary, an elderly woman whose grandson we'd helped set up a tablet for, came in with a cracked screen. She squinted at the tiny shop, then at me. "Where's the tall one?" I smiled. "Different business now." She shook her head. But I never liked his attitude. I laughed for the first time in weeks. That same week, she posted on Facebook about Reboot Repair. It got shared more than I expected. A few days later, a man came in with a busted iPad and told me, "My neighbor swears by you." That's when I realized. Kyle took the name. But I kept the trust. Then, about 2 months after I reopened, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. "Hello. Is this Reboot Repair?" a man asked. "Yes. This is Terrence Laurie. I'm with TechPath magazine. I'm doing a feature on local startups and your name came up quite a few times, actually." I blinked. "Mine?" "Yes. We've heard great things. Do you have time for an interview?" I almost dropped the phone. The feature came out 2 weeks later. The title? "Honest Repairs in a Shady Industry. Meet the man fixing tech the right way." My photo was right on the front page. Customers poured in. Emails exploded. The shop was too small. I started training a local college kid who wanted to learn. That's when I heard from Kyle again. He came to the shop in person. I looked up and nearly dropped the phone I was fixing. He hadn't changed much, same swagger, same confident smirk, but there was something under the surface now. Desperation. "Hey," he said, stepping inside. I didn't answer. He glanced around. "Place is doing well." "It is." He hesitated. I saw the article. I waited. I just wanted to say, "I didn't expect you to bounce back like this." "That makes 2 of us," I replied flatly. He nodded. "Look, I know things went down badly. But maybe we talk? About merging? Going back to what we had. Stronger this time." I stared at him. For a moment, I saw the kid I once fought in the dirt over a Charizard card. But that kid was long gone. I stood up and walked to the door. "You already took everything, Kyle," I said. "There's nothing left for you here." And I closed the door behind him. It felt good to close the door on Kyle. Really good. For a while I thought I could leave it there. Move on, put it all behind me. Let him have his empire, let him have his stolen success. But nothing in life is ever that clean. You can't just close a chapter and pretend the book is finished. The problem with betrayal is that it sticks with you like a shadow, following you even when the sun's high in the sky. My shop, Reboot Repair, was growing. Faster than I ever expected. With the TechPath feature under my belt, the customers kept coming. Old clients from Fix-It Brothers showed up, and new ones found us through word of mouth. I was busy, swamped even. But I wasn't alone anymore. I hired 2 new techs. Mark was a former IT guy who had a knack for soldering, and Lisa was a local college student studying engineering. Together, we worked tirelessly, treating every repair like it was our own problem to solve. Word spread, and soon Reboot was the place to go for honest, affordable fixes. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And in this industry, that meant something. But Kyle? He was everywhere. I saw his face on billboards. FixPro Solutions was expanding even faster now, with new locations popping up like mushrooms after rain. His social media was full of polished posts, all smiles and perfect angles. The brand was sleek, professionally designed, a far cry from the garage shop we once ran. But beneath the surface, something felt off. I didn't know why at first until I received a call from Mark. "Hey," he said, voice tense. "You gotta see this. I just found something online." I grabbed my phone, my heart sinking. It was a video. Kyle had posted it on his company's social media. "Hey guys," he said, smiling wide, like nothing had ever happened between us. At FixPro, we're always trying to keep things fresh. That's why we've got a whole new lineup of services for you, like instant tablet repairs. No more waiting around, folks. Our new app will let you track repairs in real time. I watched the video, every word a twist of the knife. We're about creating real solutions for our clients. No more broken promises, no more delays, just results. Reboot Repair? Yeah, they've got good techs, but they're behind the times. If you want quality service, you need to come to the pros. The camera cut to a shot of his gleaming new store, full of customers, sleek interior, high-tech gadgets, and a team of workers who looked like they'd just stepped out of a corporate training video. And there, right in the middle, was Kyle, smiling, untouchable. It was like a challenge, an unspoken dare. And I wasn't going to back down. I spent the next few weeks with a fire burning in my gut. It wasn't just about proving I was better than Kyle, it was about proving that I wasn't some guy who'd be forgotten, discarded the moment things got tough. I doubled down on my efforts. Mark and Lisa worked their butts off, helping streamline our repairs. I made sure every single customer walked away satisfied, and I made sure they knew it wasn't just tech we were fixing, it was their trust. It was their hope that, just maybe, not everyone in this industry was out to get them. It wasn't easy. Kyle had every advantage: money, investors, a brand people recognized. I had my garage, a bit of passion, and a few loyal customers. But what Kyle didn't have, what he never understood, was that people didn't just want services. They wanted relationships. They wanted honesty. They wanted someone who cared. And for all his money, his flashy stores, and his app, he couldn't buy that. But then came the email. It was late one night. I was sitting in the back office, scrolling through some repair orders when the subject line caught my eye: urgent, legal threat from FixPro Solutions. I stared at the screen, my pulse quickening. I opened it. It was from FixPro's legal team. They claimed Reboot Repair was infringing on FixPro's trademark, accusing me of using the Fix name in my business title and implying I was in some way affiliated with them. They were demanding that I change my name, shut down operations, and pay for any damages caused by the confusion I had created among consumers. I blinked, reading the letter again. This wasn't just a threat, it was a message. Kyle was playing dirty now. He was using his resources to crush me. I sat back in my chair, seething. This wasn't just business anymore. This was personal. I called Mark the next morning. "I'm not backing down," I said, determination hardening my voice. "We're fighting this." He paused before responding. "Are you sure?" Kyle's got a whole legal team behind him. I glanced around the shop. It was quiet, just me, the buzz of the lights, and the hum of the air conditioning. "We've got something Kyle doesn't. We've got truth." I could hear Mark nodding through the phone. "All right, let's do it." For the next few weeks, we fought tooth and nail. I hired a lawyer, a friend of a friend, who was familiar with business law and intellectual property. We sent counter-notices, demanded evidence of the trademark infringement, and started collecting testimonials from customers who swore they never confused Reboot Repair with FixPro Solutions. I wasn't going to let him take this from me. I had built Reboot with my own 2 hands, and I wasn't about to let Kyle erase that with a few legal threats. And then came the ultimatum. Kyle showed up at the shop, unannounced. It was just after closing hours. I was cleaning up when I heard the doorbell chime. I turned around to see him standing in the doorway, wearing that smug, cocky smile I remembered so well. "Hey, man," he said, his tone far too casual for my liking. "We need to talk." I stood there, leaning on the counter. "What do you want, Kyle?" "I want you to walk away. I'll make the legal threats go away. I'll stop all this nonsense. You can go back to your little shop, do your repairs, whatever. But I'm offering you a chance to leave the business world behind." I raised an eyebrow. "Leave the business world behind? Is that your offer? After everything you've done?" He shrugged. "You're smart, but you're not this smart. You can't compete with me, man. I built something real. Let it go. For your own good." I felt my blood boil. "No." He blinked, then narrowed his eyes. "What?" "No. I'm not going anywhere. You took everything once. But you won't take this from me too." Kyle stepped forward, eyes burning with frustration. "You're making a mistake." I didn't back down. "No. You are." He turned to leave, but not before casting one last look over his shoulder. "You'll regret this," he said, voice low and dangerous. I watched him walk out the door. And this time, I didn't close it behind him. I left it wide open. The calm that followed Kyle's last visit didn't last long. His threats, his arrogance, and his smirk still echoed in my mind, but I was determined to rise above it all. The legal battle had taken a toll on me, but it hadn't broken me. Reboot Repair was growing. Word of mouth was working in my favor. We weren't just fixing gadgets, we were fixing people's trust. With every repair, every satisfied customer, we built something stronger than just business. It was a community. But then the storm hit. It started small. A single customer came in with a complaint about our repair process. She claimed that her device had stopped working again shortly after we fixed it. I didn't think much of it. These things happen. We scheduled a follow-up, offered to fix it for free, and thought nothing more of it. The next day, another complaint came in. This one was even more pointed. She claimed we'd damaged her tablet beyond repair. I took it seriously. I wasn't going to let anyone accuse us of bad service without investigating. Mark and Lisa and I worked through the night, reviewing the repair logs and talking to other customers. But no one else had mentioned anything unusual. Then the third complaint came. And the fourth. It didn't take long to realize this wasn't coincidence. The accusations were too similar. Too timed. Someone was orchestrating it. I didn't have to think too hard to know who was behind it. The next day, I got a call from Lisa, her voice shaking with disbelief. "You need to see this." I rushed to the shop. Lisa showed me a viral post on social media, a post from none other than FixPro Solutions' official account. The video featured one of our customers, the one who'd first complained, claiming that Reboot Repair had ruined her tablet. She was distraught, describing a device so damaged it would never work again. The comments were filled with sympathy for her, but some of them, they were a little too pointed. "Sounds like something you'd expect from a small shop run by amateurs," one comment said. "Don't trust these guys. I'd never go to Reboot Repair." Another, "You get what you pay for. Reboot Repair doesn't know what they're doing." It was a smear campaign, pure and simple. And Kyle was behind it. He'd orchestrated it to paint Reboot as a dangerous, untrustworthy place, all while fixing his own image in the process. I felt my stomach churn. This wasn't just competition. This was sabotage. I called my lawyer immediately. We could file a lawsuit for defamation, but that was a long shot. Kyle knew how to play dirty, and the truth was, I didn't have the resources to fight him on every front. He had the power, the connections, and now, it seemed, a whole army of loyal customers who were ready to take his side. The complaints piled up. Every day, it seemed, we were dealing with a new accusation. The reputation we had spent months building was crumbling before my eyes. It was like trying to hold back an avalanche with my bare hands. Mark and Lisa were with me every step of the way, but I could see the toll it was taking on them too. Mark was the first to crack under the pressure. One night, after another late repair, he pulled me aside, his face drawn and tired. "I can't keep doing this, man. I'm out," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "I'm sorry. I thought we could win this, but it's not worth it. I've got to look out for myself." I watched as he packed up his things and walked out the door. It felt like the last shred of hope slipping away. Mark, someone I considered family, was walking out. What chance did I have? A few days later, Kyle's next move came. He filed a lawsuit against Reboot Repair. The charge? Failure to uphold safety standards in electronic repairs. It was the perfect move. He claimed that our repair practices were reckless and unsafe, even going as far as to imply that we were causing irreversible harm to devices. It was a stretch, but it didn't matter. He had the media, the money, and the connections to make the case stick, no matter how flimsy it was. I didn't know what to do anymore. Every day I was bombarded by angry calls, social media posts, and bad reviews. The business that had once felt like my lifeline now felt like a sinking ship, and I was standing on the deck, watching it slowly go under. The day the lawsuit was filed, I did something I hadn't done in months. I sat down with a drink, opened my laptop, and Googled FixPro solutions. The site was polished. The reviews were glowing. The testimonials were full of success stories, businesses that had made it big thanks to FixPro's innovative services. And right in the middle of it was Kyle, smiling in every photo, confident in his rise to the top. But then I found something buried deeper in the site. An article that seemed off. The founder of FixPro Solutions, a visionary or a villain? I clicked on it. The article was written by a former business partner of Kyle's, someone who had worked with him years ago before the rise of FixPro. It painted a picture of a man who would stop at nothing to succeed, someone who wasn't afraid to burn bridges if it meant getting ahead. The piece mentioned shady deals, questionable business tactics, and a trail of broken relationships. It was the first crack in Kyle's perfect facade. I started reading everything I could find on Kyle's past. Stories from disgruntled former employees. A string of failed ventures. Tales of investors who had backed out at the last minute, claiming Kyle was too unstable to work with. It was clear to me now, Kyle had always been willing to do whatever it took to win. He'd never cared about people, only about his own success. I sat in the back office for hours, the weight of it all pressing down on me. Then I stood up, my resolve hardening. I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to let him destroy everything I had fought for. I was going to fight back. Not just legally, but personally. The smear campaign he had started? It wasn't going to end with me losing everything. The days following my decision to fight back were a blur. I went into overdrive. Every minute not spent at the shop was spent strategizing, researching, or meeting with my lawyer. The lawsuit Kyle had filed against me was my greatest obstacle yet, but it wasn't just about surviving the legal battle. It was about reclaiming what was mine, my integrity, my reputation, my future. I didn't know where to start, so I started with what I had. Reboot Repair wasn't just a shop. It was built on years of my blood, sweat, and tears. Kyle may have stolen the business model, but he couldn't steal the heart of what I'd created. I began to contact the customers who had been affected by his smear campaign. Some of them were skeptical, others angry, but as I spoke to each one, I realized something. They weren't just angry at me. They were angry at the system Kyle had created, the cold, impersonal empire he was building. They were tired of being treated like numbers. The more I listened, the more I realized that my strength lay in the very thing Kyle had underestimated, my authenticity. I had nothing to hide, nothing to sell except for the truth. I knew I had to fight fire with fire, but in my own way. I started posting on social media. Real stories. Real testimonials. I shared footage of the shop, of the repairs we'd done, the customers we'd helped, and the work we were proud of. I didn't hide behind the polished images Kyle used. I embraced the mess, the struggles, the late nights, the mistakes, and showed people what it truly meant to be in the repair business. Reboot wasn't just about fixing electronics. It was about restoring trust. But the real twist came when I found something even more damning than the smear campaign Kyle had orchestrated. It wasn't just Kyle's past that I had uncovered, It was the lies buried beneath FixPro's corporate image. I dug deeper into the records, reaching out to former FixPro employees. One former manager agreed to meet with me, her voice shaky over the phone. She was terrified, but she knew something needed to be said. "I've seen the inside of his operation," she said, her words almost a whisper. "Kyle was never who he said he was. He's a master at manipulating people. He's done it over and over, and now you're the target." She provided me with information that changed everything. A series of internal memos and emails that revealed how Kyle had cut corners, hidden major safety violations, and used underhanded tactics to secure deals. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about exposing the fraud that FixPro was built on. Armed with this new evidence, I went to my lawyer. This was the breakthrough we needed. Kyle's empire, which had once seemed untouchable, was now vulnerable. The lawsuit he'd filed against me wasn't about protecting his business, it was about keeping his own skeletons buried. The legal pressure mounted. With this new evidence, we filed a countersuit, accusing FixPro Solutions of fraud, misrepresentation, and unethical business practices. The tide began to turn. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. FixPro tried to downplay the accusations, claiming that the documents were fabricated or taken out of context. But the damage had been done. The public perception was shifting. Reboot Repair wasn't just a competitor anymore. It was the underdog fighting for truth. And then the final blow came. Kyle called me. "Listen," his voice was calm, almost too calm. "You've made your point, but you don't know what you're dealing with. I don't lose. You'll regret this." I could hear the edge in his voice, the desperation he was trying to mask. "No," I said, cutting him off. "You'll regret underestimating me." He didn't say anything for a long moment, and when he did, there was a slight tremor in his tone. "You don't understand. I built FixPro from the ground up. You'll never be able to match me." "Maybe I don't need to match you, Kyle," I replied. "I just need to be better." The court case dragged on, but in the end, the truth was undeniable. The evidence we had gathered, the testimonies, the public backlash, all of it combined forced Kyle to settle. FixPro Solutions was ordered to pay restitution for its unethical practices, and Kyle was stripped of several key contracts. He was no longer the golden boy of the tech industry. The facade had crumbled. But it wasn't about the victory in the courtroom. It wasn't about the money. It was about proving something to myself and to the world. Reboot Repair wasn't just a small business struggling to survive. It was a testament to what could be built when you refused to give up, no matter how hard life pushed you down. I had fought not just for myself, but for every person who had been taken advantage of by people like Kyle, people who thought they could play God with others' lives. I wasn't going to let him destroy what I had built. And now, more than ever, I knew that nothing could break me. A few months later, I stood outside Reboot Repair, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The shop was still small, still humble, but it was mine. And it had survived. As I locked the door and turned to head home, I realized something I hadn't known before. Sometimes, the thing that breaks you, the thing that seems like your downfall, is really just the moment that makes you stronger.